right. Well, welcome back to another edition of Inside BBI with John and Eric. I'm John McDevitt, and with me, as always, senior editor of Big Blue Interactive, Mr. Eric Kennedy. And Neil, we hope you're there. We'll get to
Neil,
that in a minute.
Neil, are you there?
A big old hey, and if you are Neil, happy birthday as well. Saw that on Facebook. A big old. I think you're 26 today, so happy birthday. I'm just kidding. You're just a little older than 26. So before that, what are we drinking, Eric? And then we'll get to a bunch.
Oh,
of
I had nothing. My stuff's always boring. I'm still going through the stuff I had, so it's Independence Harbor Ale.
Okay.
So, yeah.
All right. I went with Steel Hands Brewing Tropical IPA. It's an India Pale Ale, 6.8 volumes. It's okay. So that being said, we had the first game with the Bills, and now we are here with Jets week. Today was the first joint practice, Giants Jets. So immediate thoughts. We started talking offline. Let's start there. Let's start with who didn't practice, and then we can get to what actually happened.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff. So we'll talk about the good stuff. There's some stuff that wasn't so good, but the most problematic, really big stuff is who wasn't there. And it's Evan Neal and Jalin Hyatt. So I should say, I don't want to speak for others, felt that they had to play a lot this preseason and felt that they had to be involved in the most important practices. This week is the most important practices because they're playing against another team in pads. They're not there. At least they weren't there today. They missed Saturday's game. Who knows what they have, how long they're going to be out, but this is devastating in my opinion for them. And I don't think they're safe. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, and I would say Evan Neal is probably more safe because of the prestige factor of that pick. But look, if you're not available, it's like what someone tweeted at me today. If you're not available, what good are you? And they're not available. And this is a common occurrence with both of them. So I think that's the story of the non on the field stuff is that those two weren't there today.
Yeah, and the thing with Hyatt, actually, it's the thing in general. First off, with Dayball, with injuries, Dayball holds. I mean, even at training camp, for God's sakes, he holds the injury stuff. He holds it more secret.
It's annoying.
He holds it more secret than Ron Swanson, held on Duke Silver. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no one knows what's going on.
It's so annoying, and he knows the reporters have a job to do. I get it. It's just annoying.
Well, the idea to say rehabbing, though, right? By not acknowledging Hyatt even has an injury, you actually create more thought, more like what's going on, more assumption. When you go, if he's not here, it's because they're injured or it's injuries and they're rehabbing. Okay, but when did he get injured? That's what they were asking. He practiced all week. When did it happen? What was it? When you don't say, that makes it seem like, is it true? Because at least Evan Neal, you heard that he wasn't going to do the walkthrough, and that pretty much gave a signal, hey, he's not going to play. I don't know when he got hurt, but
when did he get hurt?
Hyatt, on the other hand, went through the walkthrough. Did you get hurt in a walkthrough?
I don't know. My guess, it's just a guess, and other people mentioned it before me. It's not, so don't credit me on this. Is he put on all that weight, and his body's reacting, and he probably pulled something, and who knows what it is, but it's not good. It's not good, and I don't think he's a lock anymore. And you heard from me,
right,
all off season. Don't give up on Jalin Hyatt. Don't give up on Jalin Hyatt. I'm there now. I'm calling Gabe Davis, and I'm saying, how's your knee doing at this point? Because because you can't, if you're not there. To me, it's the clock's about to strike midnight on these guys. We'll see. I want to answer this question for Len. Thank God he's not Scabo. That'd be a terrible, terrible. My name's Scabo. The rules have changed now, so you can put people on IR without losing them for the year.
I think the max is 2 early on.
Yeah, there's a max now. Yeah. We don't know with Scadab. They're not going to Scadabu's going to come back at some point. It's just a matter of when. We just don't know how bad the hamstring is. Hyatt, we don't even know what's wrong with him. So I don't know. But yes, they could do that. So
as you and I were just talking about, one of the things that people keep saying, well, who cares if they show up later in the week and they play in the game? Well, every day that goes by, right, that they're not out there, somebody else is practicing in their spot.
Yes.
And that creates cohesion, right? That group has to work together. This is usually the curtain call game. This is the game where you're going to play the guys who are going to be not just
Yes.
but regular players are going to get a lot of playing time. You're not going to wait till Thursday or Friday to all of a sudden have Evan Neal show back up to practice, and Evan Neal is going to be like the first guard coming off the bench or second guard. It just doesn't make sense. It actually works against the other guys who are also trying to work together. They got to be cohesive. And after what I saw from Kubis, who had a couple of not so great plays against the Bills, he really whiffed on one. The Giants are going to probably try to figure out who's going to be that guy other than Van Roten. Van Roten, I think at this point, you can pencil him in at the moment as the starter at guard. Unless the Giants make a big switch and decide, and we can talk about that a little bit later, but unless they move somebody else. So you're talking about who's the backup guard, who's the backup right guard, and Evan Neal's just not getting the time out there.
Well, that's why I still wouldn't completely say he's less likely to me to be the one off the roster. But I'll tell you what, again, you can't overestimate one game. Well, you can, but you shouldn't. But Josh Zudu played a heck of a game on Saturday at left tackle, and he played a ton of snaps against a pretty decent Buffalo line. Not quick, so we want to see him against a quicker line. But Josh Zudu right now, to me, is making a stronger claim to make the roster than Evan Neal is. So, and we talked about Cy wasn't. I don't think Cy's as impressed as Y28 on the website was, and I was about Brian Hudson, not to be confused with James Hudson. There's Cy.
Yep.
But there are other people that if you're available and you have versatility, and Hudson played left guard, right guard, center. And so I was like, he always looks so small to me on the field. And I completely discounted him. But so when Y28 said, keep an eye on him, and I'm like, wow, he's doing pretty good. He's like the offensive line version of Elijah Chapman. He's kind of short and squat, but he doesn't seem to have problems. Now, Cy kind of disagreed with this, I think, in the running game, but I didn't see anyone bull rush him. I didn't see anybody like blow him up and like push him into the backfield. And you look at him and you think, well, he's going to get crushed, and he didn't. So we'll talk about the Bills game later. But I don't want to be too negative to start off with this. It's just that they're missing an opportunity. I saw a comment on the site earlier today that said, well, what difference does it make if they're both playing against the Jets this weekend? Well, you can't get those practice snaps back. The game doesn't really matter other than it's practice. And this is practice. And Jalin Hyatt and Evan Neal, because he's playing guard now, need the practice snaps. And they can't get that back. And this happened to Evan Neal, by the way, when they had the Detroit Lion practice a couple of years ago. He missed all those Detroit Lions practices. And I'm still convinced that was a factor in his really rough season that year, plus injuries. And here we are again, by the way. So that to me was the biggest negative. I tweeted out even before we knew they were out. I said, if Jalin and Evan aren't there today, it's bad news for both of them. And I believe that. So we'll see. I don't think they're gonna be there tomorrow. If they are, that'll help. But then we're going to get into the weekend, and if they're not playing this weekend, we're running out of time. There's not a lot of practices left. So
doesn't it seem somewhat unlikely? There were guys today that were working off to the side.
Yeah.
So if you don't even bring them to work off to the side, does it seem like they're going to be ready to practice tomorrow? No. It'd be a shocker. Dable didn't even act. I mean, he's basically shutting most of it down. Now, a bigger concern injury-wise for me, as a guy who's going to mean a whole lot, is Neighbors. So I'm curious on your thoughts there, but let's finish the Hyatt. We'll do Hyatt Neal. I'm with you, and I don't agree. Andrew has I'll put it up on the screen.
Let me just answer real quick because he brought it up. Master Mariner, some players just look bigger or smaller than their listed weights, and Brian looks smaller to me. And like, for instance, I'll give you the opposite side of the spectrum. Roy Robertson Harris looks way bigger than his listed weight to me. He just looks like a real big. Anyway, sorry.
No, that's good. That's good. I don't agree, Andrew, with this assessment anymore. I think the Giants, they have drafted Dayball and Shane have kind of put together the kind of players that they want over the last 2 years. Neal and Hyatt are two guys that have not produced on the field. Hyatt has, true or not true, there are rumblings that he's had a little bit of an attitude issue about some of the things that maybe he feels he should have had. And then there's questions of whether he's given full effort on the field. We had that conversation with the Giants rush guys. I don't think Hyatt's a guarantee to make this team at all. There's a reason the Giants are flirting with Gabe Davis, and it's not because they didn't have a fifth and sixth wide receiver on the Giants team. It's because the fourth wide receiver has the same skill set as Gabe Davis. So if you look at Gabe Davis, that means you're looking at somebody to be taking Hyatt's spot. It's somebody to do what Hyatt would do. It's not to replace Slayton. It's not to do Wan'Dale. It's not Neighbors, and they don't care about fifth and sixth for Gabe Davis. There's no reason to do that. It's strictly because of Hyatt. I think right now, there's rumors the 49ers are interested in Gabe Davis and that might start picking up because their offense has not been looking so good. If the Giants start making phone calls, it might be out of worry that they might not be able to get Davis later and because they're just not ready to follow any further with Hyatt.
I think Paul Kelly is trying to cause problems here. No.
No, God.
No. And I want to bring this up too. So Beaux Collins did get first team reps today. I think we're learning what other people have already said, that when Malik Neighbors isn't out there, the Giants have a problem. And this is why I've been saying for several months, we still need to add wide receivers next year, because I'm still hoping that Darius Slayton and Wan'Dale Robinson can be good weapons, but it's likely these two guys can be very much upgraded. And when Malik's not on the lineup, our passing attack is very average. Now, Beaux Collins today, he was in the first team and he caught a couple passes in the 7-on-7 drills, but the Giants offense struggled until they did the red zone drills at the end. We'll get into that in a second. So I wouldn't say he had a good practice, other than the fact that he was getting first team reps. They rolled him out for media day, which is a really good sign for an undrafted free agent. And then I don't know, it was a jinx or whatever, but immediately after that media day, he's out for like a week. And he comes back today for the first time, and he's immediately in the starting lineup again. Again, part of that's because Jalin didn't practice. Darius, they was limited today. That I just learned that. We're going to cover some other things that weren't tweeted out. There were some really good overviews of the practice from Art Stapleton. Did a podcast today. John Schmelk and Paul Dottino they had input from Sean O'Hara. They had some. We'll talk all about that.
Right.
But the fact that Beaux Collins is, again, immediately back into that number one role, to me, Beaux Collins has a chance to kick Hyatt off this roster, especially if they get a Gabe Davis. And who knows what they really think of Montrell Washington. So,
right.
So you got to be there. You got to perform. The scholarship's over. So we'll see. And again, I'm the guy that was standing up for Jalin. If Jalen's losing me, it's a problem. Not that in my opinion.
Well, and it's hard. What the funny thing is, just last thing with Jalin, right? How much is he losing you as much as he's just not there? I mean,
him not being there is losing me, though.
You know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're over. We had a discussion about a different player. We can get to that later. It's not like we're critiquing what he's doing on the field. He's just not on the field. So he's not there. And you missed these reps. You missed a game that you could have shown, okay, I can do more than this one thing, especially now with a better quarterback group. You're not there. And it was very mysterious of why you weren't. You made it through the whole week, and then it goes. And that's where I think Daboll, he would have been better off saying he tweaked his hamstring. That would have, I think, made more sense.
Nuts. Leaving us in the dark. And it was David O earlier on. He said he made something. I can't find his comment, but David O in the comment section said something about that. Yeah, it's just so annoying. It's not state secrets here. We're not game planning for the Commanders right now. What's going on? I mean, what's the? Anyways, that's my opinion. I find it annoying. Of all the coaches that we've had lots that don't like to discuss injuries, but not to this degree. It's just annoying. And so every time I have to do the update on the website and I do the injury list, it's unknown. It's really annoying. So real quick, because I want to get to the good stuff. The other people that we should talk about, like, again, Malik Neighbors out. The assumption was by many that it's the toe, but a couple of good posters reminded us all that, and I had not seen this, that I don't remember the source of it, but that Malik that it isn't the same injury, which actually in a way kind of makes me feel better. I hope it's not the toe that's keeping him out.
Is it related to the shoulder? That
No, because when they originally said he was walking out of that practice, they said they were looking at something in his lower body. I remember that. So there was the thing with the shoulder like a week earlier where he was on a run block and he dinged up the shoulder and everyone was like, oh my God. And then but when this thing happened, a couple of the reporters said they were checking out his, I don't know what it was, his leg or his feet or something like that. So everyone assumed it was the toe. So I don't think it's that. I'm hoping it's not the toe because that's annoying. But the other one was Andrew Phillips is kind of concerning. I'm not saying it's severe, but he's a really important player because there's not a lot of depth at nickel corner. The other nickel corner is Cordell Flott, who we want to be competing with Tay Banks.
Right.
And then, of course, Trey Hawkins is not there. So, and then also Corey Black. So, again, we're really short at corner right now. So, Tay goes off the field today. And again, so a thin position becomes even thinner. And so I just want to throw that out there. So the injury thing, there's no big major injury issue that we know of because Dave won't tell us. And he doesn't seem to be saying there's any major injury. But these little injuries that are keeping people out are annoying. And it's because like today they had Art Green and Fortune playing first string cornerback at times. And we don't want to go into the Washington Commanders game with Art Green, our starting cornerback. We don't want to do that. So
right. I have a feeling that as much as we thought maybe they wouldn't need to churn the bottom of the roster much come cut downs, I think corner and wide receiver are going to be looked at to see who might be available. And keep in mind, trades happen a little bit more now because teams look to try to avoid the waiver wire if they can, if they know a guy and they want to give a veteran a chance.
Right.
So there's possibilities of some come in. Now, somebody posted a little bit earlier, and I apologize who asked it. It might have been Andrew, about whether there's trade value for Neal and Hyatt. I would say it is. You're talking bottom of the barrel possibility. You're talking maybe a conditional 7th in 27.
Or a swap of a late pick like we did with that Dallas, that defensive tackle we sent to Dallas last year. Nick Jones is the backup nickel today, and he has been, but he's been so up and down. I've been talking about him. There are days when he looks pretty good, or within practices he looks pretty good. In other practices he just gets toasted. And that happened again. He was one of size studs in his game review. So I would not feel comfortable with rolling Nick Jones out there. Could he improve and become a better player? Sure. But I was also disappointed with him in run defense. He was one of the corners out there that bounced off a couple of guys in run defense. And that's where Andrew Phillips is pretty good. He's a pretty physical guy, and he'll come up. One of the issues the Giants have had in run defense, it's not always the people up front. It's been the secondary in recent years. And one of the issues is the nickel guys and the safeties haven't tackled real well in recent years. I think that's one of the reasons they let Jason Pinnock go, for instance, because he was not good tackling last year. So and he's not a ball guy either.
Right.
So let's get to the practices, and then we can touch back on the injuries and stuff. So do you want to start with the good or the bad or the offense or the defense, which are
let's why don't we, I'll let you dealer's choice, but
you always do dealer's choice.
I know.
All right, let's start off with the negative and finish with the positive. Well, and again, remember, don't make too much out of one practice. We have to see what happens tomorrow. And also don't forget what happened in the Bills game. So I think let's do an overview. Some of this is coming from tweets. Some of this is coming from, again, reviews from John Schmelk and Paul Dottino and Art Stapleton, who did, like I said, he did a nice 25-minute review in other sources. In one-on-one drills and 7-on-7, or let's start off with the one-on-one drills. In one-on-one drills, what was surprising is that Sean O'Hara and Paul Dottino both said, surprisingly, that our offensive line did fairly well in the one-on-one drills against the Jets. Paul Dottino said at one point they were doing 2-on-2 drills, and he'd had the Giants down for 7 wins out of 10. He said Sean O'Hara was standing next to him, and Sean and John Schmelk also said Sean O'Hara told him that we did pretty well. So the funny thing is the offensive line actually performed well in the beginning, and then when the team drills started, they sort of fell apart. At least the first team did. So we're coming off a Bills game where first team, second team, third team offensive line played fairly well, especially for our first preseason game. We passed 51 times, gave up no sacks. There were 6 quarterback hits. There were some times there was pressure where you saw Dart did well to move up into the pocket and escape pressure. But for a first preseason game and throwing out 3 different lines and moving people all over the way, that was one of the best performances I've ever seen the Giants offensive line do. And the Bills have invested a ton of assets into their defensive line. So it wasn't like we were playing against bad players back. They invested real high, a number of picks in the draft. And of course they got Boza. So it wasn't like we were playing against a bad guy. So the offensive line came off a very strong performance. They did well in the 1-on-1 and 2-on-2 drills. And then at the beginning, in the bulk of the team practices, our offense did not perform well throwing the ball. A number of people said we ran the ball pretty darn well against the Jets. Devin Singletary in particular had a couple of big runs, but they also said Turbo did well and Tyrone Tracy did well. I will throw this out. There was one tweet, John, where somebody said they didn't know if Turbo fumbled again. You've brought that up again. So they didn't rule it. Tracy. I'm sorry. Yes. Sorry, Tracy. Yep. They didn't rule it a fumble. But like in the game the other day where you said, hold on to that ball, that bears watching. So again, there's no confirmation of that. I wasn't there. Again, just somebody said, and it said they weren't sure if the ball came out. And so let's not overblow that. So, so they ran the ball pretty well. They couldn't throw the ball well until the red zone drills. In the red zone drills, they did very well. The first team offense, they had 3 touchdowns in a row. And by the way, Slayton was out in the earlier team drills, according to Art Stapleton. So this was Darius Slayton's first practice back. And according to Art, they wanted to work him in slowly. And this makes sense because Dable has a history of when they're trying to ramp somebody up. They do let them do the red zone stuff, but they don't let them do the full field stuff. So that sort of jives with so Slayton was in the early drills, like the 7-on-7, came out during the team drills, and then was in the end. And he caught a touchdown pass. Theo Johnson, who had a really strong practice, according to a number of people. I think Art actually said this may have been his best practice. So Theo Johnson had a real strong day, including a touchdown.
Right.
And it was interesting that I think Art also said he felt overall he felt that Jackson actually looked like the best quarterback. He said nobody was great, but he thought of all the quarterbacks, he thought Jackson did well. The problem was worst 4 plays, 2 sacks. Wilson had a pass batted at the line, and he had to run for his life on another play, which picked up yardage. And then it was very sloppy. Slayton dropped the pass, Dulcich dropped the pass, Dart dropped a snap. So there was a lot of, and there were penalties. So it was very sloppy until the end. So the negative one today, and what was not freaking, but getting us all kind of pissed off, including myself, was like, it didn't seem like the Giants had come prepared to play the Jets,
right.
At least early on in the practice. But they finished very strong. And it's funny, if you read the Jets fans' tweets and the Jet reporter tweets, they're pretty pissed off at how bad they looked on offense against the Giants defense, especially at the end of the day. Connor Hughes in particular was really getting into it with Jets fans who refused to accept the fact that the Giants kicked the Jets' butts in the red zone drills. He was like, I saw it. It doesn't matter what the stats say. They couldn't move the ball on the Giants defense.
Well,
we'll get to the defense.
There were some fans that were pointing out the stats of Fields' number of attempts, completions to number of attempts. And he said, yes, but when they did this full drill, his last 5 attempts, he was 0 for 5. And then this was the result of what it was. He goes, it was a much different thing than early on. There was the play, and I wanted to ask you because I didn't see it clearly enough. the pass play, the touchdown. I believe it's Wilson is it Slayton that was coming
Oh, that
across?
was pretty. That was good. That was a gorgeous throw. And
Who?
you brought up the fact that it was a nice route and it was a gorgeous
Yes.
throw. That was,
Who was the guard tackle combo on that play?
oh,
Was
I
it
don't
Van
know.
Roten and
I
Aluminum?
wasn't looking that close again because I'm trying to update the site so quickly. I'm not even. Sometimes I can't even digest what I'm seeing. But that was a really pretty throw.
If you go back to that video and you see it from the end zone view, so you've got Slayton's coming across, you've got another receiver going in the other direction, so you're dragging people across each other. Creates a little confusion and stuff. One receiver on the Giants outside is just breaking out, so he's taking his man to the side. So Slayton's coming across. The guard tackle take their two guys, and there's just a you see Russell Wilson, who's not tall, has just a perfect view to throw a pass, and I don't mean to do this, but it's all I have to do is compare it to the quarterback we had. There's no way in hell Daniel Jones throws that pass. It was too tight of a throw to be able to do that. He wouldn't have. In my view of all the years of watching him, he would not have taken that shot. He would have waited too long for Slayton to be open before he would have thrown it. Wilson starts to throw it when he thinks Wilson's when Slayton's breaking through. The guard tackle opened a beautiful lane. It was a perfect play and a really nice pass.
Yeah. Kevin, I have seen no reports at all on how John Michael Schmitz did today. I have heard very little on specific players other than people said Marcus Beaux had a really strong practice. So apparently in both the 1-on-1, 2-on-2, and in general, Marcus Beaux did well. Nobody I had seen. Hudson gave up a sack, I believe. And they said there was, but no one, I've seen nobody specifically mention most of the offensive linemen by name. So I'd be very wary about singling out players unless you have a good source on that. And part of the problem is too, when you're at training camp, again, the line, it's very difficult to see the offensive line from the stands. It's the way the Jets practice field was set up is similar. I saw it, a sideline shot. It's very similar to how the Giants are at Quest Diagnostic. It's very difficult to see how the offensive line is doing at all unless you're right on top of a one-on-one drill. So I don't know how you would even see the center or guards from the stands. So I'd be very wary of that unless you clearly saw something that was so obvious that stood out. So
Right.
just be careful. Just be careful of that, because I've noticed this offseason in particular, people will say something and it becomes a truth in its own when you're like, where is this even coming from? So I would be very careful of that. But I'm glad you asked that, because the one guy that kept coming up from multiple sources was Marcus Beaux. So again,
Right.
the Giants, knock on wood, it looks like the Giants may have actually drafted a pretty decent offensive line. Now, John Schmelk talked about today, the thing that I think we all would agree on. He needs to get bigger. He needs to get stronger, but he's got the feet. And John Schmelk singled out especially his hand play. He's very good with his hand usage, and we've seen his feet. And Paul Dottino talked about, and I've seen this too, is he's very good. He's very sticky. And what I mean by that is he engages with a guy and he will stay with them. So he stays with that man. And he's got a little feistiness to him. There was a block against one of the Bills defensive backs where he peeled off and really slammed the guy to the ground. That was fun to watch. So that was the offense. So the good news, bad news. Bad news was it was the passing game for the bulk of practice wasn't good, but Malik wasn't there. Slayton wasn't in there then. Again, this gets back to my thing that we need wide receivers. Theo Johnson had a really good practice. It sounds like Devin Singletary. Art really singled out Devin Singletary, and it looks like that from the tweets too. I think Devin came to play. I'm trying to think of anybody else.
Well, and real quick with Devin Singletary, keep in mind, I saw the tweet that said right after that play that could have been a fumble, Singletary was put right in after that.
Oh, was he? I didn't see that.
He was he was in the next play after that.
So you saw the tweet that I'm talking about where it could have been. Yeah.
Yes.
Was that Pat Leonard? Was that Pat Leonard?
I'd have to go back and I can't remember who it was.
So that's why I was a little
today.
Again, you have to be. Sometimes Pat's good, but sometimes. So I was,
but it is concerning.
And the way he worded it was very strange. He said, "I can't really see, but he might have fumbled." So it was a little ambiguous. So I again, that one I didn't put in the practice report because no one else talked about it, and it was coming from Pat, and Pat said he didn't have a good look at it. So
The way I took it, it sounded like the ball hit the ground, but it wasn't called a fumble. So there's the possibility that, it could have been. Either way, do not drop it, Tracy. You've had too many fumbles already. You're kind of reaching Tiki levels here pretty soon of early in his career. Hold it high and tight.
which one's Giant Nation? Is that Skinner? Who's Giant Nation? I forget.
Yeah, is Talking Giants Panic?
I don't
And
remember
Giants
which is
Nation
which. I don't remember which
yeah,
is which.
I don't know which one.
I don't remember.
You went by Hot Dog Guy. So that was funny. I laughed out loud when I saw that.
Yeah, if we start eating food on here, guys, you feel free to tune us out. We're not going to start stuffing food in our faces. All right. All right. Defense was really promising today. There were 7 on. All right. So I want to back up because I think people because you and I are probably going to get into it and Deontay Banks at some point, but people should not take 7-on-7 drills too seriously. Jackson Dart was perfect in 7-on-7 drills, and Wilson. They said what was weird is they said Wilson was perfect, but he was 4 of 6, so somebody must have dropped a couple of passes. But anyway, 7-on-7 drills are, if you're a good quarterback, should be fairly easy to complete because there's no pass rush and you should be throwing to an open guy. There's some difficulty level there, obviously too, but take 7-on-7 drills with a grain of salt. So they did the 7-on-7 drills where the Giants gave up some completions. There was a really nice breakup where Javon Holland punched the ball out, which was really cool. He forcibly just punched the ball out of a target. And then the big number one I took away from today from various reports is the Jets just could not run the ball on the Giants, which is a big deal. Because the Jets aren't terrible on the ground game. And if we can stop the run, we can get after the passer. Every Giants fan is basically in the same boat with that. I know we can rush the passer. Can we stop the run? So it was a very good sign that the Jets simply could not run the ball. That came across reading the tweets. That came across in the post-game reporting, post-practice reporting. And it came across from those who were at the practice. So that was really good. And then again, Brian Burns had a lights out practice. And Correct. People who say Brian Burns is overrated, Brian Burns is not overrated. And the Jets themselves were talking about what a bitch he was to block today. He was a bitch from the start on the one-on-ones. There was a sequence where he had 2 sacks, a tackle for a loss, and I think he was in the backfield for another sack, but there were a bunch of other guys there too. And interestingly, again, to show you we're not all being homers, they said in the one-on-one drills, the Jets were actually doing a pretty decent job of blocking Abdul Carter. But then Abdul Carter had this really good rush in the team drills against their really good guard. I always call him AVR. I can't remember his name, but you know who I'm talking about. So he had a really good rush against him. I'm trying to think of. They said Roy Robertson Harris had a good. Who had a breakout practice today? Darius Alexander. Darius Alexander was in the backfield at least 3 times, according to John Schmelk. So Darius Alexander had a good. And after practice, Dexter Lawrence. If you haven't seen it, watch the second to last question that Dexter Lawrence was asked about Alexander. He really likes him. So again, that doesn't mean he's ready to be a star or anything like that. It doesn't even mean that he's ready to start or anything like that, but patience with that. It was a good day for Dexter. It's probably his best, not Dexter, I'm sorry, Darius. It's probably his best practice day that I can remember for him. Was there anyone else that
I was going to ask
Micah McFadden made a play. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to ask you, I didn't hear a lot of talk of who it was that was lined up with Dexter often. Like, who are you? Because before we saw that at one time you had Nunes Roches was on the field as a starter in the previous game, and he's been listed as possibly starting next to Dexter, but he's also Dexter's backup. So I want to see who you're really playing in these combinations. And you heard the guys made plays, but I didn't realize.
I would assume it's Roy Robertson Harris based on what we saw in the Jets game. Now Dexter didn't play, but Nunez Roches was playing nose tackle, and Roy Robertson Harris was playing next to him, and had a good game against the Bills, by the way.
Right.
I didn't recognize that when we were watching, so I really had to go back and watch the game because you and I were drinking and we were talking. And
sure, yep.
But I saw that credit to Jordan Renan. Jordan Renan said Roy Robertson Harris really played well, and I went back and again, not a lot of snaps, but he was fairly disruptive. He had a play against the run that was impressive, and he was in the backfield. He leveled the quarterback on one incomplete throw. So I think it's Roy Robertson Harris, and my guess is that's the way it's going to start this year. And of course, they'll rotate people in there. My concern on defense, even though it didn't come up today a lot, was we're getting thin at corner, and that's what you were talking about.
Yeah,
we might have to do something there. And again, if some of these guys come back, it's not clear to me if Flott practiced today. He wasn't mentioned. No one said he was out, but I heard no one's mentioned his name today. So they listed who was out, and none of the reporters said, "Oh, by the way, Flott's not out here." So I'm assuming he was not there because no one mentioned him, but he wasn't listed as one of the injured players. So if anyone is at the Jets practice and saw Flott, let me know because I don't know if he was at practice.
Well, if he was, he didn't do anything because nobody mentioned him, period.
But that could be a good thing for a corner. You know what I mean?
True.
Generally, you don't want your corners to get noticed too much.
That's a good point. That is a good point. But you do want someone to say he's out there, considering he didn't play in the previous game and had missed a few practices. So, yeah, I'm really interested in a couple things. One, Carter absolutely burned the guard coming up the middle, where they said he was kind of having a little bit where he's kind of being blocked on the outside. Keep in mind, the guy he was going against is the Jets draft pick from Penn State. These two guys know each other. So I give a little bit of, they kind of know how each other's plays, but he just absolutely destroyed the one long pass that Fields did complete was after what would have been a sack, or at least considered a sack, because he was in so fast he swiped the quarterback on the way by.
And multiple people reported that. Multiple people said that play would not have counted. Now you don't want to see the pass completed either, but but multiple people said no, that Abdul got in there so fast it would have been a sack. And I don't know if you saw the Jets head coach Aaron Glenn's comment about Abdul Carter after the practice.
Yes.
But he's pretty good. He said he's pretty good. I'm trying to real quick here too, looking at see if I'm forgetting somebody on defense here. But it was interesting, like I mentioned, because of the injuries at corner, because Dante left, they had Art Green and O'Donnell Fortune, and I think I'm mispronouncing O'Donnell, even it looks like O'Donnell. I heard somebody else on if I'm mispronouncing that, I apologize. Was there anyone else on defense we're forgetting? It seems like we're forgetting somebody. We might come in. We might remember.
There was a little bit of talk of the safeties. Javon Holland had a nice pass breakup where he punched the ball out on a play. There was some question about Dane Belton, though. There was someone.
Davidson had a good practice. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's good. No, that's good. Another guy that we really want to see develop, because he does bring a good size, physical presence, and he can get the occasional pass rush. If this guy could just stay healthy, he's certainly a good rotational player if he can stay healthy.
Yeah. So overall, my biggest worry right now is just what's going on with the injuries. I'm not even counting on Evan Neal and Jalin Hyatt right now. If Evan Neal comes back, great. Jalin, I'm almost ready to write off at this point. I want to get some corners back. I hope Tay Banks is able to practice tomorrow. Regardless of what you think of Tay, you don't want him out right now because what's behind him isn't great. And that's what's making me nervous. I started a thread earlier in the week on this. The Giants' depth at corner right now is not good because Trey Hawkins is out too, and he can't stay healthy either. He's another guy that teases and then he gets hurt, like Flott. Flott teases and he gets hurt. So if we get some of these guys back, it's not so critical. But until we get some of these guys back, it's kind of ugly back there. And I would not be shocked, like you said, waiver wire. And people have already noticed that there are some corners. Cy brought one up on the Bills. Anak on the site brought up a corner. I can't remember who it was, but people are starting to watch. There might be some corner shaking, but whoever we get in the waiver wire, it's not going to be the answer. It's just it gives us a little more stability.
Sure.
So we need. Sai said he saw some decent things from D Williams. So let's keep an eye on D Williams. Moving forward too, in terms of what he was. But Steve Williams even limped off the field at the end of the Bills game. I'm hoping that was just a cramp because I think he was in practice today. So
we went back and forth.
Okay,
we went back and forth on Banks, and I know where I'm going to let you go where you're coming from. I have a different opinion overall of what I think he's going to be based on what he's already done and what he continues to show, which is an absolute lack of ball awareness. None of that has changed. It hasn't improved. You're in year 3 and you're not showing that you've learned anything in the 3 years you've been here. You continually don't locate the ball, and it's the lack of heart on some plays. And my play in the Bills game isn't necessarily the one that I did complain about. You and I can discuss that one in a minute. It's the other play when they ran to the right, and I believe, was it Nick Jones that missed the tackle? I can't remember.
No. And that's the one where I have the most problem with you on this. And I've rewatched this play a bunch of times.
Are you sure? Or are you talking about the crossing pattern?
No, I'm talking about the run. I'm talking about
he was a pansy on the run. He did not physically come up and play the run.
No, I just totally disagree. I think you need to go back. It's at the 10. It's like at the 10:30 mark in the second quarter. You can go back and look at it. The running back got through the line, so there was defensive issue number 1, and then Chris Board, the inside linebacker, came up to tackle him and bounced off of him. At that moment, Deonte Banks is engaged with number 5, the wide receiver on the Bills. I don't know who number 5 is, but he's engaged with him. And as the running back breaks away from Chris Board, he heads to the sideline. Deonte disengages from the block, and he runs to the sideline to push him out of bounds. There's nothing Deonte could have done other than run to the sidelines and push him out of bounds. I don't know what you expected him to do.
He did not physically take on the block. He mirrors.
John, you're saying a receiver.
No, he mirrors the guy to the sidelines. He does this all the time. He does not physically come up. He's not a Perry Williams on the outside trying to make the tackle. He's not a physical corner like Felipe Sparks. He's not a Mark Collins trying to make the tackle. He plays it like Dion. He's very soft on that thing. And I understand. I'm not saying
now you're arguing something completely different. You're arguing he didn't disengage from the block. Before you were arguing that he didn't make the play. He made the play.
He did.
So are you complaining about him not getting off the block?
Now, what do you consider making the play? Just running with the guy to the sidelines?
He didn't run with the guy. John, you really got to go back and rewind.
I understand what you're saying, but I disagree.
Look, you're going to lose credibility if you talk about somebody. I know you don't like him, but you got to call a spade a spade. If somebody makes look, the problem on that play wasn't Deonte Banks. It was Chris Board.
I understand what you're saying, but that's still not.
You were in the play before that you did the same thing.
No, I still disagree.
Banks had outside leverage, and he ran across the middle. And
go back and watch that. Go back and watch that play. Is he even set at the time the ball is snapped? No, he's just casually coming up there, and the receiver just cuts and goes.
Leverage on.
I understand. You still got to be ready.
He could have done there.
But you still need to be ready. Go back and look at his lackadaisical coming up to the line.
John, you're going to lose credibility if you do this.
You keep saying that, and I disagree. Just because I don't agree with you doesn't lack that I don't know what I'm talking about as far as football. I've watched it as long as you have. I
understand that, but you have gone on record repeatedly that you say, I don't like this guy.
I don't like the way he plays. He does
not
want
him off the team. And then you look
That's not exactly what I said about I want him off the team. I'm saying he doesn't tackle.
Yes, you did. Yes, you have. You said you couldn't get off the teams quick enough for you. You've said that repeatedly.
He does not tackle, and it will bite us in a moment when there's a play to be made. Physically, he's not going to do it. He's going to shy away from it. I'm not
disagreeing with you that there isn't concern with him. I am not disagreeing with you that he may not work out. We may find out that he's a complete bust. But what I'm saying is, don't look at a play where he wasn't a problem and say he was a problem. So he was a problem in a play in that game, and it's not the one we're talking about. It's the one where he face guarded the receiver on the incomplete pass.
Well, that's even worse.
That was the worst play he had in that game. But the other two plays, I feel like piling on at that point. I mean, it just doesn't. When you say he wasn't set, it doesn't matter if he was Jason Sehorn on that play. He had outside leverage, and when the receiver cut across on a shallow crossing route, there was no linebacker or no safety in
I
the middle
understand
of
what
the
he's.
field.
I saw the play. I understand that.
All right.
You'll see. We'll watch it again this week, right? He'll play the Jets. I guarantee you, you're going to see another play where he's not coming up and making the tackle. If I'm wrong, I'll admit it.
I don't disagree with you. I'm saying there are questions marks about his ability to come up and defend not because he can't do it. It's the want to.
It's the want to. It's
however, I don't think that was the issue on the play that you're talking about. I don't see the problem on that play was Chris Board, and he played off the block. And if he had come up, the running back might have run around him on the sideline. So he ran to the sideline and he pushed him out of bounds, which is what anyone would have done. Now you can make the argument that he should have not gotten blocked, but that happens. So
no, I get that. That's not what I'm going to be. We'll for now,
yeah.
I'm going to say, fair enough. We'll go from there and we'll watch for the same things.
And
I don't agree that his physicality for his size, he just doesn't bring it. He doesn't give the effort to do it.
And I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying you got to pick better plays than that to make your point. I'm just saying,
fair enough.
He did not play, in my opinion, he did not play as bad as people say he played against the Bills. I just don't think he played that.
So let's be clear, because you did just help me one bit. I am not the only person who thinks that.
What?
Who saw the same thing. There are other people that feel he did not play well against the Bills. It's just you think one way, I think another, but I'm not the only person.
No, I didn't say he didn't play well against the Bills. I said
no. You said other people have said.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so it's not just me who thinks
there are people. And again, we've seen this for 30 years on my website. When the firing squad forms, they'll go after somebody until the end of time. So it doesn't matter if it's a guy that ends up being good or not. And again, I keep bringing up the same people because they're immediately in my head. But the David Deals, the Sean O'Hara's of the world, we can talk player by player. I mean, for Christ's sakes, Eli Manning. Until the Super Bowl run, and even including in 2007, people were like, "Get rid of this bum."
Well, so after the Vikings game, yeah, that was
even that, the Redskins game that year.
Well, that was after the Vikings game, wasn't it?
Right. So
yeah.
Anyway, I have the same reservations about Deonte Banks. I am not saying Deonte Banks. I'm just saying I have not seen the quit that we saw last year. This year, I have not seen him. What is telling, and what you and I talked about, was that the coaches had him in the game as long
kept him. Yeah,
that was telling. That to me says, I don't know if that's a warning or they want him to get the work or a combination of both. But I thought, and you thought, they were sending him a message.
Well, I think okay. So we'll move past the other part of the conversation. I think the bigger part of that conversation, though, let's say whether it's a warning or you want work. Here's the thought, though, right? Flott's out. Hawkins is injured. We don't know how long.
Option right now, but
we don't know. So you played Banks for a long time. Even if you're sending a message, what if he got hurt?
I know
during that message.
Yeah, but that was I was kind of getting a little worried. He got hurt today. That's the problem. Is there for those people who say get rid of Banks? Well, then who's your starting corner right now? And even if Flott comes back, I don't think Flott's ever completed a season. He's always
correct. I think he's injured.
I like Flott as a person. I think there's some ball skills there. The coaches, it happens every year with Flott. They say, here he comes, he's getting better, and then he gets hurt. It's happened every year he's been here, and it happened again. He was challenging. Hell, they even released the unofficial depth chart, and they had Banks and Flott as the number one corner. I've never seen that before. So, anyways,
well, and what makes that worse is the Phillips injury, because Phillips is dinged up. Now you're trying to fill the slot and the corner too at the same time.
Because Flott to me is our backup nickel because he's done it before too. So look, when we go into the draft, I don't know if Cy's still there, and Cy may disagree with me, but I look at the needs on this team. I've been fairly consistent. I still want to address the offensive line, keep adding to that, but though getting Beaux, if Beaux, again, knock on wood, if he pans out, if we re-sign Illuminor, I don't know if we're going to, but, we're not that far away from being a decent offensive line. I would like to get a kick-ass guard, maybe a tackle, and that's where I've been looking. But I'm looking more at wide receivers because I I want Jackson Dart to have 2 to 3, 4 guys, which includes the tight end. So I'm hopeful Theo Johnson's the guy. But I want him to have weapons that he can do all kinds of crazy crap, like the Eagles. Okay, that you defend the whole field. You take out Malik Neighbors. Well, we're gonna beat your ass with our other wide receiver. I don't think Slayton is that guy. I don't think Wan'Dale's that guy. We'll see. I hope I'm wrong. I think they're not bad. I don't think they're bad, but I want somebody who's like, I want to get back to like, remember when we had Hakeem Nicks, Victor Cruz, Mario Manningham? Remember how good that was? I want to get something where the other team, you take out Hakeem Nicks and you take out Victor Cruz. Remember Bill Belichick? You take them out, and then Mario Manningham makes the play. And Mario Manningham in the 49er game in the playoff makes that catch that with that, I still argue, is one of Eli's best passes.
Oh, absolutely.
Without that question. 3rd and 15 pass. And then the other issue is corner. So now corner, that's why I'm part of my, I'm going to say part of my not willingness to completely dump on Banks right now is I don't want to give up on a 1st-round draft pick at corner, because then I'm like, Jesus Christ, now we got to address corner again. Look at the disaster the Giants have had at corner.
Well, you pointed that out about their drafting corner. I mean,
the 1st-round draft picks they've had since like 2011 or whatever it's been. It's been like Eli Apple and DeAndre Baker and I forget.
I mean, go back further. Will Allen.
Will
Peterson was better than Will Allen, but Will Peterson tears his knee up, and that was a problem. Prince Amukamara was average.
Prince Amukamara, there's another one, yeah, and he never really fit in. So anyway, let's get back on.
One thing real quick though.
Yeah.
You just mentioned a name that I wanted to bring up earlier. That kind of what happened to him concerns me with this guy, and that's Hakeem Nicks. Hakeem Nicks was amazing, right? He's so who knows what he could have been if he didn't have problems with his feet. And now you've got Neighbors now with apparently a toe injury.
John, don't even go down.
No, I know, but that's what scares me. I'm like, oh my God, you talk about an injury that goes back to college. That now it's like, okay, now you're managing it, and you're only in year 2. We haven't even started year 2 yet. That concerns me. So I think you're on to something as far as the offseason. The Giants kind of considered, they were looking at maybe what would it take to get a T. Higgins, but he never really became available.
Right.
You got to think that they know they need to get somebody else. Now, there was a tweet, and I wanted to ask you about this. Did you see where someone else commented that Wan'Dale Robinson just does not look as quick as he used to, and that there was a bunch of discussion?
Oh, that was.
I totally disagree with that.
I saw your comment. Steven, he didn't play. He missed he's been out. He came back today, but he's been out a while with an unknown injury. So we talked about him earlier. He was getting 1st-team snaps, got hurt, was out a week, came back today. So he didn't play. Again, it sounds like I'm dumping on Skinner. I don't want to dump on Skinner, but sometimes he says things like that. And I don't see it. I don't know what he's talking about. I don't know. And I don't know if you saw that someone asked him, because I was curious. I was like, are you talking about the injury? And he said, no, not the injury. So I don't know what he was referencing. So he has said some things that, again, Roy Robertson Harris isn't very good, that kind of thing, and, and Ledbetter's better, that kind of. There's things I just.
But if you think about it, too, right? How do you judge Wan'Dale today when Neighbors is out, Slayton's out, Hyatt, who technically would be the 4, he's not out. So now Wan'Dale's kind of playing a different role, and the Giants are probably trying to figure out what are we doing in the passing game with some of these guys on the outside. Beaux Collins, we don't know who else really played. We didn't hear a whole lot of any of the other guys. We didn't hear, Smith Marset. We didn't hear about Olszewski. We didn't hear about
you mean today?
There wasn't a lot of talk about those guys today, so you don't really know.
Marset had a nice play in a blitz, they said, but there wasn't a lot. Again, the offensive line did not block well in the team drills.
Right.
Almost everybody said the Giants quarterbacks were under siege until the red zone drills. So when you can't pass protect, I still feel that this team needs, I still feel this team needs what Wan'Dale's going to be a free agent. It's going to be very interesting to see if the Giants make a big play to re-sign him or not. when I look at the head of the draft, and we got to get Cy on some part. There are, I don't think it's a very deep draft at wide receiver, but there are some very interesting guys, especially slot guys, that when I look at them, I'm like, oh, he would be a nice guy he's a nice upgrade to Wandell, or potential, I should say, because they're draft picks, but a nice potential upgrade to Wandell. And I like Wandell, but I think we all have to be honest. His career hasn't gone the way we hoped. And is that because of Daniel Jones too? We'll find out. This is going to be kind of, to me, a really important year for Wandell for his future with this team. If he has sort of a meh season, upgrade the position, because you want to surround Jackson Dart with really good players. So I don't think this team is too far away if Jackson Dart's the real deal. If you can get the quarterback and you have a defense, you can get those other pieces. So if we can keep this defense together, and this is a fairly young defense, and if Jackson's the big question, if Jackson's the real deal, then you can get those wide receivers. Those are easier to get than it is to get a quarterback and get a really good defense. I mean, our pass rush right now is looks scary good right now, and it hasn't even, I mean, Abdul Carter is not even a fraction of the player he will be. I mean, he's still a rookie. So imagine what Abdul Carter will be in 2 years from now, 3 years from now.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Giants either pick up off the waiver wire or make a very low-cost trade for a veteran corner on the backside of his career, but a guy that they knows what he needs to do. Because if you know what you need to do, you can be in position better than a guy who you're just hoping his athletic ability can get him there, but his head's not always where it needs to be. It's kind of like when they went and, getting an Everson Walls back in the day, or they brought in Dave Durrison as safety. These guys were on the backside of their careers, but they knew where they need to be.
Who was the corner we had in 2000? Was it Dave Thomas?
Dave Thomas was with us on
backside. He wasn't good, but he held it together. That's
if you can pass rush, if you can pass rush, I just need a guy to know where he's going to be. Adoree Jackson, I don't want him anywhere near this team, Paul.
John, I think I think that's I think that is a great comment. I'm going to redeem myself. Really nice, Eric. That is I think there is a need on this team for a corner that does exactly what you just said. He won't make mental mistakes. Right. And maybe he's physical and he will come up against the run and you don't have to worry about that. So Deonte Banks doesn't just have to worry about Cordell Flott. He's got to worry about the guy that's not on the roster right now. So I think you're spot on. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we get another corner. How we get it, I don't know. It could be a waiver wire. Sure. We picked 3 in the waiver wire, which is a big deal. So we'll probably pick up 1 or 2 guys that are actually not garbage. I would assume. So we'll see. Beggars can't be choosers. Yes. Oh how nice. Anyways, so anything really on the Bills, because we didn't really get to talk about the Bills. My big thing was the offensive line. When I went back and watched that game, the offensive line played way better than even I thought they did when I saw it live with you. I was like, wow, it was like, and it wasn't just the starters. It was the backups. It was Josh Azudu. We talked about Brian Hudson, but it was Marcus Beaux, who everyone's talking about. Marcus Beaux didn't play a perfect game. Right. He had a couple of rough spots, but he played both right and left tackle, which is hard for a rookie. And he didn't play left tackle in college. He played right. But he looked very competent at left because he looks like he has the feet. And to me, that was in Turbo. And I thought, and Jack, of course, everyone's talking about Jackson. I mean, those are the standouts to me.
I made a point because we looked at one thing that Miller brings is pure speed, right? That's at a running back position. We don't have a true burner other than Miller. So if Scatterbo, your opinion, if he misses, let's say he misses the rest of this week. Now you're kind of hoping he's going to be practicing the following week and may or may not play in an absolutely meaningless game. Would he, in your opinion, do you think the Giants might side on the err on the side of caution? Mm-hmm. IR him short term. Miller makes the team here that way because that gives them time to do something else. Because let's say they start the season off and God forbid
someone has an ACL.
Well,
Yeah.
they're 1-4. Now, if someone comes to calling for a veteran running back, you could move Singletary,
Yeah. Yeah.
bring Scatterboo off the. If you're a winning team, now you bring Scatterboo off. Now you can move one if you want to move one of the other guys. You do whatever you want. But I'm just thinking that there's only so long you can wait. No matter how much
Oh, I
you.
agree. I agree. Yeah, I completely agree. There's only so long you can wait. I would hate that for to happen for two reasons. One, I am such a believer in Scadaboo's talent, especially as a wide receiver, as a receiver,
Right.
that I would hate to have that happen. Though we saw with Turbo. No, Turbo's not like Scadaboo in terms of in natural hands, but you can throw a quick little pass to Turbo, and he's like, it's all of a sudden it's an 11-yard gain, and you're like, damn. And the Bills had no answer for it. Again, there's vanilla defense. But they had no, because they would catch it. Because in most guys, you catch a little pass, you come up and you tackle him. Miller was like, whoop. He was not channeling my Chris Berman here. He
Nice.
was up and it was like all of a sudden it's like 13-yard gain, and you're like, damn. And the other thing is Scadaboo. I love his attitude. So I think he's one of those guys that won't take losing very well. But everything you just said is spot on, because the clock's ticking, and there comes a point where you say, even if he comes back, is he really up to speed? Is he really ready to throw in there? And wouldn't Turbo be a better option at that point? And then the special teams, of course, comes into play at that point.
Because he also missed a bunch of the OTAs. He did
Yes.
not do stuff.
Oh,
in
he
the
did. He
OTAs,
missed most of spring. He missed most of the spring, and he's missed most of the summer now. So there
Right.
does come a point, and that would also cause the Giants not to do something stupid and bring him back too soon again. And let's be honest, he came back too soon. He re-aggravated his hamstring. He should have, and they're tricky. I'm not going to throw the training staff under the bus, but they brought him back too soon. He pulled it again. Now he's back out. So
Nice.
Turbo. But was there anybody else that we didn't talk about with the Bills? I mean, we're at the hour. I got yelled at, but not bringing up the time. Sorry, I shouldn't be doing that.
Yep.
Was there anything else in the Bills positive that you wanted to go over?
Well, I mean, I think Montrell Washington showed a lot of
and Cy was very high on him.
Of what he can do. Now, he did have one that he dropped that it could have been a better pass. He still could have caught it. But I think his shiftiness, his ability to get open, and he's quick. That's something that if we lose Wandell for any particular reason, now you don't have that guy. There's nobody else on the team that's going to have that same. The other guys are a little bit either smaller and not fast, or they're a little bit bigger and not quick. But either way, he's a guy that does it. But do you want two small guys on the team? And depending on what they're going to do, can he play specials? If he can return kicks at any point in time, so he's a backup kick returner too, he just adds more value. I like that. Beaux Collins, I want to see this week because obviously he didn't play. Combry, I thought, showed that he's not ready to be in the offense.
No, I didn't see anything from, but it's early. But again, I didn't see. He doesn't look athletic enough to me. But
with a career 10 catches, it's really it's kind of hard to say. But I thought the tight ends, though, I thought all the tight ends looked pretty good, and I was really happy about that. But the thing that I brought up earlier on the site, and I'm leaning more and more to it now, if Beaux continues to show that he can play, if the Giants really want to eventually put their best line on, and maybe at some point you slide Illuminor into guard, Beaux comes in at right tackle, Andrew Thomas is at left tackle, Runyon at left guard, and then JMS at center, assuming he's still the best center. But right there, that gives you a really good team. And also, if that's the case, the Giants, if they decide to re-sign Illuminor, could re-sign Illuminor with the idea that you're a guard, which pays less than tackle. So
but
that's something
Illuminor, let's be honest, Illuminor wants to get paid. He has been tweeting since he's been here, and he wants tackle money. So we'll see. At worst, Beaux is great insurance if Illuminor departs in free agency, because I think again, Cy is going to be the first one, if he's still on here. He's going to say, let's not assume he's going to be the answer here yet. Though I will say this, Cy, if you're listening to me, we need to back off on this arm length crap. I get it. I understand the arm's length is important, and I know there was issues at the scouting combine that they missed. They were short on the arm length, but give me feet and attitude and hands over anything else any day. So, anyways, but he gives. It's going to be really interesting what they do with Illuminor. Like you're saying, I think if Illuminor stays here, It's a great question, John. Do you move? Who do you move inside? And a lot of depends on does Andrew Thomas get hurt again? Because if Andrew Thomas gets hurt again, all bets are off with that. Then you're thinking about, can Marcus Bull play left tackle? That type of thing. So I think what's interesting is I think a lot of people are down on James Hudson. I wouldn't be too down on him yet. I know that he had the 2 penalties, but I can't get past the fact that he has actually held his own against Brian Burns in practice and KT and Abdul Carter. And again, it hasn't been completely one-sided. They say he plays with a chip on his shoulder, but I do think Marcus Bowe is breathing down his neck and has a very good chance of taking away that swing tackle role for him. So in other words, if the Giants need to go to the bench, if Andrew Thomas is back and Luminor or Thomas get hurt, do you bring out Bowe or do you bring out Hudson at that point? So I think that's a fair question at this point. I know what Giants fans would say based on the last game. They're going to say Bowe. The only thing I was cautioned, and Cy brought this up too, it wasn't perfect for Bowe. It was a little rough in the beginning, but for the amount of plays he played and where he played them, it was very promising.
Thank you, SPP. That's awesome. Your question, it'll be interesting to see the fact that the Giants did it, and I noticed it in the Bills game. The Carter was lined up, came up through the middle. They did it again in Jets practice today, lined up, went over the guard, and just blew right past him. What that does, though, especially in early downs, that means that Burns and Thibodeau are on the field at the same time with Carter. That opens up things and allows them to kind of, because if you go back to that play that Carter in practice today would have had the sack, look at Thibodeau. He's in the middle as well, and he drops back in coverage. So it's Carter goes through, Thibodeau's going, and he comes back in coverage. The fact that they had all 3 of them, that was a big question, right? Carl Banks asked the question, is Bowen the kind of guy who can take advantage of having those 3 guys and using them at the same time? And how would he? Today, that was an interesting thing. I think Carter can blow things up in the middle. You're not going to want him lining up there on 1st and 10 per se, but you certainly can bring him in on early downs to add a little pressure.
Well, the early returns on the coaching staff so far, I think, have been, again, somewhat positive. So it looks like Shane Bowen knows how to use all 3, right? And that's what you're just saying.
Yes.
It looks like he knows how. That was a big question. Cy had the same question. We had the same question. Others had the same question. Is Bowen smart enough or creative enough? Is his coaching staff creative enough to use all 3? It looks like they are. And again, they're doing this without throwing the kitchen sink yet, which makes me I'm very curious to see what happens when the bullets start really flying. The other thing is, again, there was one part of practice today where, again, against the very good Jets defensive line, the offensive line did not look good. But they also looked very good for a full game against a Buffalo Bills line that may not be as good as the Jets, but has a lot of talent on it. So my point here is the offensive line, we still need more data, but it doesn't look like a complete disaster. I don't think most people would have expected the Giants offensive line to play as well as it did against the Bills. I do think a lot of Giants fans would have expected them to have more issues against the Jets, because the Jets, we're going to be fair, the Jets have a pretty talented defense. They've got a good defensive front. So we're going to see the good defensive fronts with Philadelphia and other teams on our schedule. So we're going to have to get used to it. But I think it's not going to be, like I've been saying, I think that it's not going to be a disaster. And I do think, and I've said this in another podcast, we're going to cut some offensive linemen that other teams are going to claim. And I said that last podcast or a podcast before, and somebody said, no way. I'm more convinced of it now than I was before. I think at least one guy we cut is going to get picked up by another team. That's how bad the offensive line play is around the league, by the way, too. So we'll see that. Yes. Oh, and Roy, the previous thing. Yeah. If you haven't seen it, we talked about Roy Robertson Harris and Darius Alexander earlier. So good practice for Darius today. And Roy Robertson did play well against the Bills in limited snaps. And apparently did pretty well today against the Jets too.
So Matt M on that with Corey Webster, I'll say the difference with Webster though is Webster being a later pick. I'm trying to remember, was he 3rd, 4th round pick?
Yeah, but everyone thought he was done. Remember, he was on the practice squad.
I understand it, but Webster also brought he's a little bit bigger little taller, a little bit bigger, and he didn't have the same athletic ability as Banks. So he was more of a technician, and he was kind of out of position a lot. But he really came up big later on for the Giants multiple times. Another guy similar that you brought up before, a guy who bounced around, but it came up big for us in that run. R.W. McCorders. So another veteran corner. So that's where I'm kind of leaning. Banks he's a first round draft pick. He's got to show, but Eric's point earlier, so that I don't beat my dislike of Banks into the ground. Eric's point earlier, though, is the only real truth to this one big piece is that if Flott is injured, Hawkins at this point, you can't even count on him. He's been injured again, and he wasn't challenging for the possibility of starting. That was Flott Banks. At this point, the Giants are unbelievably thin.
Unbelievably thin.
Banks almost is guaranteed of making the team just because no matter how bad he plays, because there isn't anybody behind him.
We had 4 corners out of practice again today, and then Banks went out. So 5 of the corners on his team weren't practicing today. So we'll probably go into this Jets preseason game really short at corner again. Again, relax with that because recognize that. But like John said, I think we're gonna have to pick up a corner at some point. I do want to say one quick thing on Corey Webster. The 2 of the most miraculous turnarounds I've ever seen in my life was Eli Manning's turnaround in the playoffs of 2007. He went from a guy that was like all over the place, and you're like, is he even the answer, to the best quarterback in the playoffs that year against guys like Tom Brady and Troy Aikman and Brett Favre. He was the best quarterback. And Corey Webster was incredible. And that came out of nowhere. And it was almost like, I don't know, somebody like blessed them or something. It was like out of nowhere, both those guys became completely different players. Corey Webster it wasn't just the Green Bay game in overtime. He had an interception in Tampa, and he was shutting down people. I don't know where that came from, but Corey Webster to me was one of the great miracle turnarounds in Giants history.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. But I mean, a lot of things really lined up for the Giants. That that's what that happens with a lot of teams.
Oh, did I say Troy Aikman? I didn't mean Troy Aikman. What's his face? Romo. Yeah, sorry.
Romo. That's all good. And R.W. McCorders played a big role with the team there, and came back later and played again. He helped return. So that's why I think, again, even the 90 Giants team brought in veteran guys on the backside. Why? Because you had a front that was really good. And if you talk to some of the Giants players, which we have, some of them who were on both the 86 and 90 team thinks the 90 defense was better than the 86 defense. I kind of don't agree with that, but I'm not part of the team. They believe that.
Well, remember, the guys that we were in the secondary think the 90 team was better, and the guys up front think the 86 team.
I see. That's a great point, right? Yeah. That's a great point, because when the Giants won the Super Bowl in 86, we had injuries at that point.
Tom Flynn was playing free safety.
Well, Herb Welch was the starting safety. Herb Welch was the free safety.
Herb, you're right.
Flynn was the backup.
Flynn was the special teamer, but you're right.
He was the backup.
It was Herb
Welch and Kenny Hill. And then you had Collins and Williams, and Patterson was still around. And then in 90, we went really young on the defense, where we have Jackson and Guyton are the safeties.
Right.
You brought in, but then you had old Everson Walls was out there. We had Mark Collins was out there. Perry Williams was still there. So we had a very different makeup secondary wise from 90 to 86, but the 86 front was just awesome.
Well, we're getting off topic here.
Anyway,
so let's wrap. Unless you have something else.
Well, I was thinking, what do we want to see the rest of the week is what.
Yeah, we want to. Tomorrow's a very, very important day. I'm assuming the same injured players are going to be out. That's kind of been the Giants' MO. Regardless of how you feel about him, hope Tay Banks is back, because if he isn't, this is getting really, really scary. Hopefully Andrew Phillips is back sooner as the nickel back, but we're really, really thin at corner right now. And the clock's ticking on Evan Neal and Jalin Hyatt. If they miss this week and the game, I mean, what do you do then? I mean, you got one more week of practice than the last preseason game, and then you got to make roster decisions soon. So this did not go well. Evan Neal started off the summer well, but the one thing you and I said way back in the spring is he cannot afford to get hurt again. And here we are. So if he comes back tomorrow, okay, but if he doesn't and he's not here this weekend, at that point, keep Aaron Stinney. Isn't Aaron Stinney a better player at that point? And that's sad. I mean, how sad is that?
I would think so. And again, it's position versatility, right? Like
Yeah.
he can also play center. So there's a reason to keep him. If you keep Neal around, you're right back to where we were last year when you kept him, even though clearly he wasn't physically. When they played him in the
Right.
Jets preseason game, you could tell he was not physically ready to play, and
Right.
he missed a bunch of time. They should have put him on the pup to start the season. They
Right.
didn't. If you just hold on to him, you're still hoping, right? There's no proven piece of him in a game that he can play guard, that he's learned anything. All we know is some of the practices, but I don't count a ton of practice when it's against your own players. What happens when you play guys you don't see every single day? And he hasn't won every rep. He was getting burned still by some quickness things, and that's a big deal. And then the other guys around him have to be comfortable with him playing. Will Hill, there's a name from the past.
There's a Will, yeah. Will the Thrill Hill. Yeah, well, that's what. And to prove your point, again, there's game performance and there's practice performance. I don't think anybody, and most of us, thought Josh Azudu is still in the picture. But on Sunday, he played left tackle, a ton of snaps at left tackle, and was rock solid out there, not only in pass protection, but as a run blocker. Cy singled out his run blocking in the game too. The Giants didn't run the ball very well, but Josh Azudu, he's a big guy, and Josh Azudu is one of those guys that can play guard too. So right now, if I'm Brian Dable and I'm Joe Shane, Josh Azudu's ahead of Evan Neal right now. To me, now does their pride get involved and say it's a first round draft pick? We'll see, but Evan, you got to get out there. Sometimes you got to play hurt. He's got to get out there. Bill Parcells. I mean, you and I have talked to a lot of old Giants. I know it's a different era, but we've talked to guys who've said, rub some dirt on it and, get out there. Are you hurt or are you injured? Basically get out there. And I know this sounds, and people are going to be like, oh, BS there. Sometimes you just have to suck it up because his career's at stake at this point. There's no tomorrow. Maybe
Agreed.
He wants to go to another team. I don't know, but.
So I know Andrew's comment, Neal 6'7", is he too tall to play guard? And then Master Mariner came back with, well, William Roberts was 6'6". I don't think Neal's too tall to play guard because he played it in college. It's not like he hasn't played it before. A lot of his is just quickness, period, which is why, Master, I'll say the difference between William Roberts and Evan Neal. William Roberts was almost, and this is a bad way of saying this, so don't take it the way it's going to sound. He was almost too soft at tackle, meaning he was one of the dancing bears or dancing elephants, as George Young used to call. We need dancing elephants. He could move. He could really move. He was very nimble, but he wasn't always overly physical as a tackle. He would let guys get into him, and he would be out of position a lot. He would get a lot of holding penalties. He would hook guys a lot. But when they moved him into guard, all of a sudden that ability to get out and pull was a huge advantage. Go back to the game against Denver in '89 in the snow on Dave Meggett's screen pass that goes like 57 yards for the touchdown.
Was he one of the guys on that play?
He's the guy who takes Simon Fletcher right out. He runs all the way across the field. A great block.
Well, for those of you who say, Jesus Christ, stop bringing up William Roberts. William Roberts is a perfect analogy for Evan Neal because the Giants traded back up into the first round to get William Roberts. He looked the part, but he just couldn't play tackle. And they kind of moved him into guard out of desperation, and it worked out. So it's kind of like the same scenario. You want to hope for Evan Neal, but William Roberts was available. That's the problem. And we've talked about this with Evan Neal for a long time. It's not just he sucked at tackle. He's always been hurt. And I think that's contributed to his suckiness, that he's had these lower body injuries, the ankles, the hips, whatever he's had, and that's affected his balance, and it's affected his ability to shadow, rushers and all of that. So you got to be available out there. My guess, we don't have no idea what's wrong with him, but would you be shocked if it's another ankle injury? I mean,
I wouldn't be. They're being really. I hate Dayball's bullshit with injuries. It's so annoying because I guess I don't need you to give me put up his X-rays or something.
No, he wasn't. That's what's frustrating about it. Sorry.
No, you're fine. No, that's great. You don't have to put up his X-rays or give a detail of what the doctor said, but at least the body part that we're talking about would be useful, especially with Neal, especially with Hyatt when he made it through the whole week. Because you open the possibility that is this some sort of is it really injury, or are you just saying that because you guys don't want to address whatever it is in public, and you're a little thin at wide receiver? Is it something else? If it's injury, how the hell did he get injured after all your practices were done?
I don't know. That's what's frustrating. And again, I know why they do it. It's just, and we don't have reporters now that are able to. The Matt Garofolos aren't covering the team anymore, and he would be able
So
to find out what
right.
the injury was. And
So Donald, I'll answer that question. William Roberts was drafted in '84. So Carl Banks was first, and then the Giants traded back in with Washington to get Roberts. In '88, Eric Moore was drafted first from Indiana,
he didn't
and then
pan out either, really.
and then they moved him to guard to try to. Elliott was drafted in the second round, and the Giants really tried him at right tackle, and he failed horribly against
He
Dallas
was
early in the
horrible.
season.
Jumbo was horrible at right tackle, and for some
4
reason,
sacks to Too Tall Jones in that game.
and Jumbo never looked like a prototypical left tackle at all. He looked like a prototypical right tackle. He did not look like a left tackle, and for some reason, he could do it. It was amazing. That was another head scratcher.
And that's where William Roberts solidified that left side of the line. And Doug Riesenberg, I think he was like a 5th round selection.
He was something like that. Yeah.
He comes in at right tackle because Carl Nelson was sick again at that point. So now you've got Riesenberg at right tackle. That became the line that ultimately in '90 was so dominant. And in '88, they really started turning. The Giants started to run the ball a lot. That's how Joe Morris made it to 1,000 yards that year, even though he was pretty bad most of the year.
Jerry Reese's biggest failure was not retooling the offensive line when that 2007-2011 line was clearly aging. They didn't have anybody in the pipeline ready to replace those guys, and that line was falling apart even in that Super Bowl year. If you watch if you even watched the 2007 Eli Manning drive, that line is getting beat like crap by the Patriots. I mean, Eli, it wasn't just the play where he's running for his life. I mean, that whole drive they weren't very. The last play they were great on the blitz, but anyway, that's no other story.
But that's another thing.
Yeah, it's another story. Let's wrap this up. So tomorrow's key to me, no injuries is actually. I want them to play well, practice well, but I'll feel so much better if we can get out of tomorrow and the preseason game with the Jets. And part of this is, again, my scar tissue from the Zeke Mowat getting hurt against the Jets, Jason Sehorn getting hurt against the Jets. We can even the Jets have gone. Didn't Mark Sanchez? He get hurt in the Giants-Jets preseason game? Didn't they lose him? Wasn't Sanchez?
I'd have to go back on that one. That's the one though that Eli got busted his forehead all open in that game.
There was one. Wasn't that the Eagles though? Wasn't that?
No, that was a Jets preseason game. It was the first game. It was the first game in MetLife Stadium, the preseason game, and he busted his head open in that preseason game.
Yeah, I have scar tissue from the Jets-Giants game from my youth, and that's me being superstitious. I'll feel a lot better when we're past the Jets. And again, I don't want them not to practice and put people in bubble wraps, but if we get to the end of tomorrow and nobody's walking off the field or being carted off the field, I'll take a deep sigh of relief and then just try to get through So I think it's going to be interesting because the Jets got embarrassed on offense in the red zone. Even Dexter Lawrence talked about it. He says he expects them to come out pretty fired up tomorrow on offense. The Giants better also feel pretty embarrassed by what happened earlier in practice in the team drills. They did well in the red zone, but we're learning that when Malik Neighbors isn't in the starting lineup, it's a difference. So unfortunately, and that's why I think they still need wide receivers next year. But
so the schedule the rest of the week, Eric, is what? We do the joint practice with the Jets tomorrow.
Let me pull that up real quick if you want to provide.
And I would think tomorrow you based on the way you just described it earlier, unless something changes, I would think that Slayton got in some of the more short range goal line stuff.
Yeah, he did.
You'll probably see him back with the starting unit tomorrow.
Maybe. I don't know.
Especially if Neighbors doesn't play, you would kind of want to get him involved.
But they don't want to get him hurt again either, too. We don't know what Slayton had. Again, so
that's a good point. That's a good point.
So they have a joint practice tomorrow, and this is at Quest. And then on Thursday, they have a practice, and that'll be a walkthrough. And then there's no availability on Friday. And then there's the game on Saturday at 7. So if whoever doesn't practice tomorrow, my guess is they're not playing on the weekend. So if Malik's not practicing tomorrow, if Andrew Phillips is out, Evan Neal, Jalin Hyatt, I doubt we'll see them in the walkthrough. We could, but I doubt it. Usually, we have one more good practice this week. It's tomorrow, and then there's a walkthrough, and then it's the game. That's it. So
yeah, I think you're right.
Picking on Evan Neal. I mean, he's running out of time.
If they don't practice tomorrow, I can't imagine they're playing.
Right.
Because this is more of a dress rehearsal.
Yes.
If this was the first preseason game, you don't care as much. You go, okay, I'm going to get you in the second or third quarter, get you some reps and whatever. This is going to be what would you say? Wilson's going to start. Yeah, I know. I saw that.
Wait, because you're on here, guys. We
did. I posted to them earlier. We got to arrange.
Yeah, we are definitely having you guys come on. So we're right. So anyways, I just want to get that out there.
Yeah. So, you would expect Wilson to start, correct? Being that this is going to be a dress rehearsal game.
I would think so. And can we talk about one quick thing? I think your instincts are starting to kick in. I'm going to give you credit again, John. John can be nice, Eric, again.
You're always nice. We just disagreed.
I think what's not being talked about enough, maybe it is, and I'm not picking up on it. Jackson Dart is pretty much the second team quarterback now.
I was going to say, I thought, and thank you, but I was going to say, you actually said it before that he really could win. And I kept thinking Winston's going to be the buffer. I'm beginning to think Winston very well is going to be the 3, and he's the emotional leader, the guy to and he can be the backup next year because the Giants signed him for 2 years. Wilson's really the guy until they decide Jackson's the guy.
Jackson Dart has gotten pretty much all the second team reps this summer, and he got them today again.
Yeah.
And he got in the game second on Saturday. I think Jackson Dart, I mean, that doesn't mean early in the season, if they're still a little worried about, again, I've said it before, and I keep saying it because the first 4 games, the whole schedule's tough, but they may say, you know what, he's not ready to throw in. If say Wilson comes out with an injury in week 3 or 4 or 5, they may still say, you know what, we still don't want to throw him to the wolves yet. And that's where Winston comes in. But right now, in terms of snaps and who he's playing with, Winston isn't getting the second team snaps anymore. Dart's the second team quarterback right now.
I'm with you. The other question becomes, you've got DeVito, who's cheap and is a really good third guy.
He's not playing poorly, and he's not playing poorly.
And he's a good third guy. And the reason I bring this up isn't because I think he should be the third quarterback over Winston. But when guys in the know, Bob Papa, Carl Banks, the way they were talking, and sometimes I feel like maybe they are fed certain things.
Yeah.
They went out of their way to talk about how DeVito being cut wouldn't make it to the Giants practice squad, that there will be a team. And Matt Sims said DeVito's in the top 20 of backup quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, I thought
that's a little excessive.
I thought that was a little much.
But I'm feeling like, is that company line? Is that because the Giants? The other thing to watch is development elsewhere. One, Matt Stafford, thank God we did not sign him.
Yeah, oh my God.
He has a back problem.
You mean trade him? Trade for him?
Yeah, trade for him.
Yeah.
He has a back problem.
And Aaron Rodgers got hurt today.
He's got a lower leg problem. But Stafford's back problem, they thought he would be back on Monday. He wasn't. They thought he'd be back today. He wasn't. He's 37 years old, and he's had a back issue before. So this is something that a team like the Rams could be in a market for a quarterback. The Jets just said that Tyrod Taylor is not going to be ready till the beginning of the season, at least. Are they comfortable if anything were to happen? Are they, where else are any of the other teams? Green Bay, Jordan Love, while he's supposedly not going to lose any time, just had surgery on his left hand. So there's teams. The Giants have a quarterback, 1 of 4, that they could move.
I would not discount it, and we've talked about this for a long time. I think it's possible. We'll see.
So back to my question.
I would listen. I have been harsh on Tommy DeVito in the past too, but he had a bad practice last week, the 1-for-10 one with the 2 interceptions to D. Williams, but he played pretty darn well on Saturday, and by most accounts, the limited snaps he's had, he's done pretty well. So I don't think there's room on this 53 for 4 quarterbacks. We talked about it last week. Somebody reminded me they did it back in 92. I don't see them doing that. Would I bet my house on it? No, but I don't see them doing that.
So we assume that Russell will play first. That's the assumption. I would think so. He already was,
same,
and he's been named the starter.
the same pattern, don't you think?
How long do you think he would play this time, though?
Old school, it would be for all right. So this is the great question, because you and I were operating under the assumption that they would not turn back the clock and have Wilson run a series last week, and they did. So that's like the old days.
That's
so
true.
If they're going to continue with the old day spirit, he would play the first half, right? But I don't think he'll play that long. But if this was 1985, 86, 1990,
sure,
they would play
the first half,
third quarter. They play
at least
into the third quarter.
And if they didn't look well with Parcells, they would play longer.
Like we had Sims on, and he said they had him playing in an overtime in a preseason game.
In a fourth preseason game. It was against the Steelers. He was very unhappy. It was, I believe, 87. He was very unhappy with the effort. He made them play all the way into overtime.
Yeah, and my guess would be this, and it's just a guess. Wilson plays a quarter, Dart plays 2 quarters, and then Winston or Tommy finishes up in the fourth quarter. That's my guess. I think Brian Daboll loves Jackson Dart and wants to get him as many snaps as possible before the season starts. I'm guessing he gets 2 quarters still, half a game. Dart does. So my guess would be quarter for Wilson, then second and third quarter for Dart. But that's just your guess.
Sure.
I don't think Brian Daboll only wants to give 1 quarter to Jackson Dart. I think he wants to get him ready. And I know you're nervous. I know you're nervous about getting him hurt. But
no, I mean, I didn't want him to play in the last game. I don't want him to just play the whole last game when you're putting all your scrubs out and you're risking him. They played him so early in week 1, that Wilson and then Dart, and the fact that and Winston was later. There is no way that Jackson Dart is not the backup quarterback unless he plays poorly and they feel like we're gonna just bring him along a little slower. If he shows again against the Jets, it doesn't even have to be exactly the same, but if he's comfortable with the plays, if he changes plays or calls hot reads like he did, if he's giving the touchdown pass, where if you go back and look at the highlight, he's tapping his hip to let the receiver know what he's going to do. You can see what he saw coming. It's amazing how early on, if he does that and shows the command of the offense like that, how is he not the backup?
I will just caution again that I've seen a million videos pop in my YouTube feed this week about how great Jackson Dart was on Saturday. I'm not saying he wasn't, but he did miss a few opportunities, and Daboll talked about it too. But when I rewatched the game, there were a few throws he missed, and he's going to have a bad game. We've talked about this before. So don't when it happens, don't
turn on him and try. Yeah,
it's going to happen. This isn't linear. So he's going to throw an interception. He's going to fumble the ball. Something bad's going to happen, and so just recognize that, and it's not the end of the world. So that being said, I think that first game went pretty darn well, because the one thing that I took out of it that I don't think a lot of people are talking about, some people are 2 things. The way he moved around in the pocket really impressed me. I kept harping on that when we were doing the game live.
Yes,
the way that he was maneuvering around in the pocket and stepping up into the pocket, that really impressed. Daniel Jones didn't do that. Phil Simms did that really well. He did that better than Eli did. And I love Eli, but Phil Simms would stand up, step up into the pocket and get creamed, and he would still deliver the ball.
Yes.
The other thing is Jackson just didn't seem nervous out there. He just seemed very, did you get the sense I know we're watching it on TV. Didn't you feel like the moment wasn't too big? I know there were times when he kind of ran sooner than he probably should have. There's probably a couple plays where he probably ran with the ball, and he would, if he had to do it over again. But I just never got the sense that like the game was too big or he was too nervous or anything like that. And I always felt that nervousness with Daniel. It just always seemed like you almost kind of knew that interception that we keep talking about, like in the preseason, that
Oh, you
preseason
could,
game.
yeah,
But you
knew
could
it was
almost
coming.
sense that disaster was about to strike. I don't get that same sense with Jackson, and it's going to happen. I'm just
Sure.
saying I just feel better with him.
I'll say this. I agree with you. 100% agree with you. What I liked about him is a couple of times he moved forward and still kept his eyes further
Yes,
down the field where
yes,
he could have just taken off and run, but he
yes,
didn't. Now he
yes.
did run a couple other times, but there's the other piece, right? If you go back to 22, Dayball installed a lot of run options with Jones, mainly to probably protect the fact that he didn't trust Jones to be a throwing quarterback constantly. He just wasn't that guy. You use him when the opportunities are there. Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston do not bring that to your offense. They are not going to run the ball much. Wilson can move around. He's not 21 years old,
Right.
22, 23. This guy's not going to run around the way that a Jackson Dart or even the way Daniel Jones did. Dart gives you that ability, but he's a quicker runner than Jones was. He's a little niftier. He's not going to be a guy that's going to be really long strider and take a shot or trip himself, 20,
Right.
at the 20-yard line. So I think Dayball is. Well, let me ask you this. I have an opinion, but I want your thoughts. How hard is it for Dayball not to be pushing this guy? This is his guy. We
I
saw
think
it.
he
We
is. I think
heard it.
somebody, Chase Daniels, not on the clip that everyone's showing, and maybe he made the same point in that clip. I haven't watched that clip, but Chase Daniels was being interviewed on Rich Eisen's show, but it wasn't Rich Eisen. He's being filled in with Tom Pellisario. I think he said it in that show. He said when Jackson Dart came in the game, Dable changed the offense.
Yes, I saw that.
And so I thought that was very interesting, and I didn't think of it until he said it, but he did. So when Wilson was in the game, it was a lot of quick, short passes to the tight ends in the flat. And then when Jackson came in, he did a couple of things just to get him. It was a very smart way that they had it. They kind of got his feet wet, and then they took some shots farther down the field
Sure.
with him. And he was talking about Chase. Whether he's right or wrong, I'm assuming he's right. He said he saw more RPO elements
Yes.
in collegiate style offense when Jackson was in the game, which is, again, a credit to the coaching staff if true, because it means they're adapting the playbook to the talent. So that supports what you're saying too, in this sense, that I think it's not just that he has a love affair with Jackson. I think he kind of wants to run that kind of offense. I think it's two things. I think he wants to get more down the field, fun kind of thing. And I want to see that, but I want to see better wide receivers. We got Malik. Come on, Wandale. Come on, Slayton. But I'd like to add a
Well,
wide
and the
receiver.
one thing, right, with Jones, not to beat a corpse, but the one thing with Jones is once teams really figured out what Dayball's schemes were, so forget Jones, right? What the schemes were with Jones the teams started doing what? They did not chase down the line. The ends were starting to stay, and so they kept Jones in. Now you made him have to throw, and nobody was afraid of him picking them apart. They were not afraid of them going down the field. Forget the Vikings game. That was a one-off that should not have been used as the telltale. This is how things are going to be. Overall, teams challenge Jones to throw the ball. With Dart, though, you've got to watch the run. And by the way, without Saquon, it's a multitude of backs, and they all kind of do some things a little bit differently. So now you've got to pay attention to that. If it's Saquon, you focus on Saquon. You just constantly focus on Saquon. But with the Giants' backs the way they are, and with a quarterback that can move like Dart can, I'm not saying he has proven it yet, but he shows that he has that physical capability. That gives Dayball back his 22, playbook with a guy that really could actually run it. But he's also the guy. Go back to the Tennessee game that Jones got the deep pass on. Look at how long Sterling Shepard had to wait for the ball. Like it still wasn't leading the receiver. Jackson Dart has a gun. Russell Wilson has a moon ball if you want to throw that pass. But Dart has a gun when he can throw it. So he'll lead the guy.
Pass to little, someone said it perfectly. He ran little Jordan open with that pass.
Right.
I mean, that pass got that little Joe Humphrey was covered, but that pass was just so damn perfect. Somebody a few people threw Daniel Jones under the bus today. It was either today or late yesterday. Mike Garafolo did. He was saying, Daniel Jones is a good guy and all that, but he said he was talking about Dart, and he said, he started talking about what you just were talking about. He said when Daniel Jones was here in 2022, and you and I've talked about this, but Mike Garafolo said the same exact thing. He said they dumbed down the offense. They took half the field away.
Right.
That he would focus on half the field, and he could handle that. And he said the following year, they get the tight end Waller. Of course, he got hurt, but they get the tight end, and they expand the field, and he couldn't handle it. And that was Garafolo talking about that. So you and I have talked about, the average fan have talked about that, but Garafolo, who's plugged into the league, threw Daniel under the bus. And then today, which I thought was funny, was Schmelk and Datino were saying, oh, we haven't seen a back shoulder throw like this in years. Isn't it great to see someone be able to throw a back shoulder throw like this? And I'm like, well, who would that?
You're a little late to the party, but thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I know. And it was Paul that was saying that. And I'm like, everyone's dancing around the elephant in the room. We all know it. They just don't want to come out and say it. Anyway.
That's funny.
So, and you don't believe me, it's today's show, the Big Blue Kickoff Live or whatever. The one that they do at the end of the day. They talked about in the beginning.
So with that, I think you and I'll talk, but maybe tomorrow we'll do after practice, or we'll do Thursday after we'll
have to discuss. We'll have to find out.
We'll figure it out.
It makes sense to do something like a review show at some point, like preview of the Jets game. Let's see what happens tomorrow. If there's a lot of interesting stuff, maybe we'll do.
So stay tuned. We'll let you know if we're going to go live. We'll let you know. It'll be one of the days this week.
Yes, we need to have a discussion about the upcoming game and a review of the practice at some point. We just don't know what day.
Yep, and then we'll decide. But I'm game to do the game. Again, it was fun. We were a little off center on timing, but you can only do what you can do with the stream part. But Neil, you're not banned. I know.
Oh wait, is Neil back?
No, it's his. I'm pretty sure his birthday's tonight, so I'm pretty sure he's
okay.
Not.
This is for Neil. Do you think Neil will watch at some point?
Oh, he'll definitely watch.
Okay, this is
all right. I apologize.
You're really sorry.
I'm really, really sorry. I apologize unreservedly.
You take it back.
I do. I offer a complete and utter retraction. The imputation was totally without basis.
All right, Neil. I'm sorry I accidentally banned you. It wasn't intentional. Come back.
That was
so
funny,
sorry.
It was fun. It was hard because we got spam botted for the first time, and every time we would try to get it, other stuff when it would come in would shoot up where you were. So if you were started one and then it all moved, you accidentally hit the wrong. It didn't matter. We didn't.
That's
mean
what
to.
we want him to think. That's
yeah.
All right. On that note, all right. So all right, guys. Everyone, say a prayer tonight. No injuries tomorrow. We don't need any more injuries. Let's get some people back and let's get through this week in a good way, and then we're getting close. Pretty soon we're going to be talking about the real deal. So we're not that far away from the season. So
a big thanks to SPP for the super chat. Appreciate that.
Oh, yes.
The store is up. It's inside bbi.printify.me. So check it out.
We don't have an order yet. Somebody I'm actually
ordering.
I'll be
ordering tonight. I'll be ordering tonight. So behind me, the white helmet. That is, I bought that over the weekend. I got it in Myrtle Beach. That is the salute to service one. So it has the gray camo along the back of it. So it's a white helmet. So I dropped that. I picked up a Malik Neighbors jersey. Got a T-shirt for my wife for us to go. Hey, our buddy from. Oh, dude! Congrats! Hey, how'd your soccer piece go? Excuse me, your football. How did your football go? Welcome aboard. We usually see him a lot when we were doing morning shows. Bam, he was always there. But yeah, so I picked up that. I'll be wearing Malik's jersey in Washington. Pray that we don't get killed. But we'll be in.
Wait, so you're not going to wear one of your two?
Shut up.
Daniel
Stop.
Jones jersey.
Listen, first off, I told you I bought those in 2019. In 2019, I did. I have been waiting to burn them as some sort of exorcism here before the season started. I've been trying to figure out how do I do it and film it and burn them. But yes, God damn it, one home and away. Home and away. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. I'm sorry. It sucks.
All right.
But I got LTs in the background, but I left.
All right, one last thing. Are we still doing a preseason live game?
I wanted to do. Yeah, I want to do Saturday night's game.
So we are doing that.
As long as you say yes.
Yeah. Okay. Because we haven't really. We thought we were.
I assumed you were, but I said a minute ago. But yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And we can look for the good and the bad of the Tay Banks. Assuming he plays.
I thought it was kind of funny. We were going back and forth. One of the things we talked about a long time ago is like we were worried that sometimes people think we agree too much and at times we won't. I wasn't expecting it to be Tay Banks in the preseason, but I knew it was coming sooner or later.
It was coming sooner or later. So,
but it's all good. We're good.
Right, yeah.
So, but with that, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. We passed 1,400 subscribers, so really appreciate that. Appreciate everything you guys do. Thank you again for the super chats. It means so much. Thank you, Paul.
I mean, there was a lot of interest in the Jets thread on BBI today. It was like at one point, I don't know what it is. That was up to 40,000 views at one point today. So it's going crazy. So I don't know what it's up to now. But anyways, people are really interested in the Giants right now. That's a level of preseason interest that we haven't seen in a long time. I think Giants fans are starting to realize that this team, it might not have a great record, but it's going to be fun to watch. That's my sense.
So a little tiny, and I don't know if it means anything. I had reached out to Beaux Collins folks, just congratulate. Oh, your son's doing great. If we ever get a chance, love to get him on a show. They got back to me. Oh, that's great. We love it. We're just waiting for him to get his regular number. And I was like, huh. I wonder if you already know something, but I left it at that. So we'll see.
You're not supposed to say stuff like that.
We'll see. We'll see.
Jesus Christ! You just got his parents in trouble.
We'll see. I mean, that could just be them being happy, or maybe Beau's already on the team.
All right,
knows football.
Now we're gonna have to do this
was
again.
in no way fair comment, and
you're gonna have to apologize to them. All right. And that note, we're out, and we will see you in a day or two.
Sounds good. See ya.
Bye bye.